All right. You want to hear a 39-year-old have a meltdown? I should have kept my camera and microphone on as I was trying to troubleshoot this thing because I clearly have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to tech, but hey, we're getting there in the end. Right on. Cool. And I can't see anything in the chat. So I'll tell you what, if Laura or Kaylee are listening, can you text me anything in the chat for now? Because again, I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to this stuff. This is why I write resumes for people. Because I'm a freaking idiot. Well, with some things, not everything. Okay. I'm going to try one more thing. Just so I can see the chat. Nope, you know what? We're going to press on with it. Cool. Well, thanks everybody for joining. We are working on a former Marine today. He's account manager, kind of in the MEP space, or the MEP space, sorry. Um, should be pretty straightforward for us, but a couple things we can look at right off the clip. I mean, one, especially two, if we're in positions that are within the trades, there's obviously going to be a lot of folks in the military who make that transition, use those skills they learned in whatever branch and take them over there. So the fact that we can get out right out in front that he was a Marine Corps, was an officer, that tells a lot without actually saying it, right? We're demonstrating leadership, um, discipline, being able to work cross functionally, blah blah blah. And also, he was D1 football player, so anything related to sales, account management, business development, where there's a competitive side to it, they typically want athletes, right? Especially too, in it's not just within the kind of construction field. A lot of it is with investment banks, private equity firms, venture capital. Like they love athletes. So if you were a college athlete or even a high level high school athlete, that's always a good thing to include. Right. So let's get started. I'm going to build out his notable achievements. And as always, I'm using my nifty tools here to help me flesh it out. So the GPT I'm using is trained on all the data from successful resumes that I built over the years. And what it does is it puts it together how it thinks I would. So let's see your name. Yeah, that works perfect. So we're getting right out in front with the military experience. So I want that. Good. I'm going to mention that in the summary, but let's see. I think I've already pre-populated this stuff. Yep, good to go there. I'm going to leave that. Cool. Now, if we were just coming out of the military, right? So you had a 5-year career there. We would usually go through the different advancements, right? So if he's starting at second lieutenant, then we would go to first lieutenant and then probably captain. Just depends on the branch, obviously, and how long somebody stays in. But showing that career progression is important if we're starting that first resume coming out of the military. But for now, this works perfect, having it all combined into one. So let's see. It's a good example of a responsibility. Yep, good quantifiable data, good quantifiable data. That's going to be more responsibility, good quantifiable data. So what I'll do, plug those three in. It's funny, one of my best friends is a former Marine, and when I was 22, we were trying, or it was my birthday, and we were trying to cut through Hollywood Cemetery in Richmond, where a few presidents are buried, I believe, some famous folks. But anyway, I got my arm stuck in barbed wire, and Connor, my Marine friend, who had just got back from Iraq, I believe. But anyway, he said, "Oh, we've got a trick for getting people out of that." And I was like, "Yeah, go for it." And he proceeded to use all 6'4", 240 pounds, however big he is, to just yank me out of it, and that led to this nice little scar right there. So yeah, appreciate my Marine Corps friends. They always leave you with something memorable. But right, so what we're looking to do, as always with the achievements, because that's the bread and butter of any resume, right? We need to make sure that we're showing a clear cause and effect. So we're showing scope, size of the budget, how much he was supporting training and operations, but also to cutting $1 million from costs, right? So instead of budget management, I actually might change that to cost savings. So yeah, so new fund method, accelerated distribution for combat training, perfect. And then plan ensuring 100% accountability, mission readiness. Again, cause and effect is key there. If we can get that part right, we're typically in good shape. Right on. Still wondering why I can't see the chat. That's no bother. Oh, thought I lost it again. I'm just going to stop fiddling with things because I really don't know what I'm doing, and I'm figuring it out as I go. So right, so I'm going to plug this in here. And what I'm looking for, about 40 to 55 words talking about his day-to-day. And it's good that he's already using, he's staying away from using acronyms, because a lot of the times, especially if you look through like performance reports or promotion reports, things like that, there's tons of acronyms that most people have no idea what they are. And from what I understand, even some folks in the military don't even know what they are. So anyway, he's doing a good job of translating that experience. And what I'm doing is just trying to tighten up the language. If we can use an economy of words, get more for less, that's what we're looking to do. Support supply chain operations. Cool. Yep, he's perfect. Good to go here. So let's plug in the date. Right. Oops, that should be Calibri. Right, moving on. So whenever I'm balancing out a resume, right, obviously with a role like this, that was a bit of a short stint, didn't do too much there. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on it, right? I'm going to give 2 sentences to talk about the day-to-day, which I'll talk about how I'm going to do that in a minute, and then this is something we can use for the achievement, right? But again, I don't need something that's going to have 50 words and 3 bullets, because now I'm just making stuff up for the sake of it. Now, when I talk to this individual, we can see, all right, are there any other things you would like to add? But for now, we're just going to roll with it. So let's see. For a project manager. So what I can do with my GPT is ask it to develop content that is generic enough to where it'll fit, but also too, it gives us a good place to start as and when we need to make adjustments. Now, my mouse is not performing the way I want it to today. Like cross-functional teams. Get rid of diverse industries. Stakeholder. Yep, easy enough. Perfect. Okay, then let's go back to our achievement. I don't want to do lead. Always try to mix up the language a bit. Can we do delivered works, process improvements, cost reductions, and safety initiatives? Enhancing cross-border logistics. Yeah, perfect. Because again, that enhancing cross-border logistics and improving service performance, that's our outcome. So good to go there. And then always remember to save as you go. Now, bolded keyword. So depending on how I want to focus this thing, and again, a lot of it's going to come down to having a conversation with the client, but let's say he still wanted to balance some of the project management experience he has with account management and sales, I would use project delivery. So yeah, pretty straightforward there. So I'm using a functional title for the military role, especially too if it's somebody who's a officer or senior enlisted person. We can go with operations manager, operations director. As long as it's within the ballpark of what this person was doing, or game, it's good to include. Alrighty. So let's see here. Okay, so what I would probably do here, so I can open up a little bit more space anyway. So this is why Microsoft Word is often a much better tool than Google Docs, because I've got a lot. It's so much easier to change the spacing in between lines, and then the kerning feature as well to squeeze the space in between letters. Whereas I don't even think there's a kerning feature on Google Docs, and then changing spaces is just a pain in the neck. So, but anyway, so right on. So we've got 3 achievements here. So honestly, with something like this, there's not much I can do to make that more impactful. Right? So I'm not going to change it just for the sake of changing it. I'm going to tighten it up in a few places here. In revenue. So yeah, just try to tighten it up a little bit here and there, but all good. And then we've got these 2. So let's flesh these out just a bit more. Flesh these out. Because what ChatGPT likes to do if you're using it to build out your resume is it likes to say, this showcased this demonstrated that. And that's telling instead of showing, right? So what we want to do is within the resume, we want to try to focus on what work went into accomplishing whatever you accomplished, and then obviously what that outcome is. Or we can start with the outcome and then say how we got there. So let's see, revenue growth. Driving highest volume in sales. Oxford comma. That would customer acquisition. Perfect. Good deal. Right, and then what we'll do here, so I'm going to ask this to flesh this out a bit more. It's a very sunny, warm day here in England, which people think isn't always the case, but in our neck of the woods, we don't get a ton of rain, not like up north or anything. So yeah, it's pretty nice out there. Okay, so we're getting stuck on coordinated. So let's say fostered collaboration between external partners. Cool. All right, we're good to go there, and that was an account manager. I forgot dates for that other one, but I'll go back and add those later. Get asked about dates all the time. I mean, you're fine not to use months. Typically, if you're doing an application online, you will have to submit the exact dates and everything because people get concerned about job gaps. When it comes to job gaps, in the United States, I typically don't get worried unless it's over 6 to 9 months, depending on the role. Now, just because we have a gap doesn't mean you're never going to be able to get an interview. It just means we need to explain why the gap's there. So it can be something as simple as I was volunteering, doing professional development, I was looking after a family member who was ill, whatever. Companies often don't care as long as you can explain why, and the simplest answer is always the most effective. When it comes to the UK, Europe, typically you get 12 to 16 months before people really start getting a bit nervous about somebody with a gap like that. But again, as long as we're explaining what it is, like if you took a sabbatical to travel, um, you know, went back to school to do a different degree, we can still use that to bridge the gap within the resume or the CV. It's just about being a little bit creative, that's all. And as I said, the simplest answer is always the most effective. Cool. Okay. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to move this one up to notable achievements to give a bit of a breadth of what he's done. So we've got company B, so obviously I'll need to go back and change that. Cool. All right, good to go there. So let's see, I need beautiful. So I'm just going to have it perfect. Yeah, this is coming together nicely. When it comes to fonts, I usually use Calibri or Franklin Gothic. I know that is the most exciting thing to talk about, but it comes up all the time because people are like, oh, is it going to mess up the applicant tracking system if I use this? I mean, yeah, if you're using freaking Wingdings, it's going to struggle, but, you know, classics, Arial, Times New Roman, fine. And the reason I use Calibri and Franklin Gothic is just because the letters are a bit tighter. There's not as much space in between, so I can fit in more content, and that's why I use it. It just helps me get more bang for a buck. Set, good there. And then client retention. That's going to be a keyword that pops up all the time with these types of roles, especially if you're an account manager. Sales, maybe not as much, but definitely in account management. Yep, perfect. Yeah, and this continuous excellence isn't necessarily a keyword that's going to pop up, but it is just one of those strong statements that, at least with my clients I've worked with, and then obviously the people that read these things, it's something that kind of makes them pay attention, because who doesn't want somebody who's at the top of their game, right? When we're in a crowded market that's just sucks in general, it's really good to be able to demonstrate that you're somebody who gets stuff done. Right, and then I just need to flesh out the description here. So I want 3 sentences. Let's start it with directed, or direct, because it should be in present tense. So what we do is present tense for roles that we currently have, past tense for jobs that we no longer have. And then achievements are always going to be past tense because, what am I doing? Because we haven't achieved it yet. Or if we've already achieved it, it's already happened. Now, if you have an achievement that is forecasted to do something, or you're working on it but it hasn't quite delivered the result, you can say what it will lead to. That's obviously not going to be as strong as saying this happened, but saying this will happen is much better than saying this is what I want to happen, right? To means maybe, maybe not. That which, that means it happened. Really critical to get that point across because it's simple but important. And again, once I talk to this individual, I can go back and make sure that, okay, so obviously he's managing account strategies, performance metrics, ongoing communications with the stakeholders. Yep. All that makes perfect sense. All that works well. Cool. So account manager here. Right. So let's finish off the top half here. So account management is going to be an obvious one. MEP industry, because again, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and that's something he's big on. I'm also going to include project management. Let's stick it with there. Sometimes I'll do 5, sometimes I'll do 3, sometimes I'll do 4, but for now I think it's simple to keep it account management, MEP industry, project management. Good background overall. All right, cool. So areas of expertise, keywords that they would be looking for potentially. Let's see. Business development, definitely. I've already used account management. Client portfolio. That's something that can pop up. Sales, pipeline, management, customer prospecting. Cross-team collaboration is always a good one just because, being able to demonstrate that you can work across teams, bridge gaps between different groups with competing goals, that's always helpful. Cool. Alrighty. Now, again, this whole area would change depending on what that specific job's asking for, right? Whether it's the job title, call that the thesis statement, the summary, areas of expertise, and notable achievements. For anybody who doesn't know why I want to have this, so the reason I like having a notable achievement section is because according to heat map studies, most people read a resume in the shape of a letter F. They go down and across, and they spend a majority of their time in the middle of page 1. So I want to get the most relevant achievements up front and center. Typically what we want to do is look at a job description, see if we can determine what are the 2 or 3 or 4 main problems that we'd be solving at that company. And if I have an achievement that shows I've solved the same or a similar problem, I got to get it in this section. It's the most likely place the reader's going to find it. Let's see. Let's move on to the summary. Right. So, like we talked about, this person was a D1 football recruit, military background. So what I'm doing is I'm giving my summary builder some information about this person. So what else can we say? He's competitive, disciplined, works well in teams, sales hunter mentality. See what she gives us. Not as big a fan of that. I'll show you what it gave me and then we're going to edit it. It's being a bit too literal with the instructions I gave it. offering. How long has he been in the game? 8 years. Customer portfolio is increasing revenue every year and thriving environments. We'll leave it for now, but we're going to edit that. I'm going to write this one by hand because I don't like what it's doing. Okay. Account management. We need to be engaging. We need to be influential. Communicator. So it's always going to be people that don't want to buy or have objections to the purchase. So being able to push back. So I'm always looking for opportunities to say how we can put our soft skills into play or what happens when we do. So I'm definitely going to be moving this, change it to entrepreneurial. Entrepreneurial is a great thing to include just because it shows that this person is somebody who treats it like it's his own business, right? Having that mindset of always trying to grow, improve, blah, blah, blah. So good thing to have there. Let's see. Strategic and tenacious. I can spell. Still can't spell. Strategic and tenacious sales hunter. Blends business acumen. So he's in the military and he was in logistics. He's comfortable with data. He's comfortable with analytics. Opportunities open up untapped markets. Reduce customer churn. Deliver long-term value. That works. So, reason we're saying things like pursue growth opportunities, that's obvious. We're making money, open up untapped markets, going into places where we haven't made sales yet, getting them, reducing customer churn. I keep clients happy and from leaving us and going to other competitors. And then talking about what we do. We deliver long-term value using consultative sales techniques and relentless focus. Relentless focus is one I use for a lot of Marines just because that tends to fit the bill. So I think it's a good place to start. Now let's go back to the top here. Discipline leader, 8+ years experience. Expanding. Generating year over year. That'll save some space. Clad. Still not sure. I'm not sure if I like that as much. So building winning teams. Hmm. Entrepreneurial discipline leader offering 8+ years success generating year-over-year revenue growth, forging iron color. Background, D1 football experience, and professional drive. I don't think football should be capitalized, but we'll save it for. We'll keep it like that for now. I think we'll end up. Well, football experience. Let's leave it for now. I gotta get in there, collegiate athlete. But this should do the trick for now because I just want to sit here in silence staring at a freaking screen. That's so exciting to watch. Believe me. So just doing a bit of tidying up here, opening up a bit more space. Yeah, perfectly fine. Yep, I think we're good to go here. Yeah, we'll get rid of up. Why not? So yeah, so that about covers this one. So as you can see, for a 2-page resume, somebody with 10 years experience, and it's not about how fast I can do it. It's just because I've been doing this for a long time, and that gives me the insights too. But it doesn't need to be this monumental task building out your resume, whether you have somebody do it for you or you do it yourself, right? We keep it simple. We stick to the facts, right? No more than 1,000 words. I mean, we're coming in at a nice tidy 700 here, which is perfect. We've got plenty of room to add new content if we need to. But the point is that if we focus on accomplishments, if we focus on how we've made an impact, that's what gets people to pick up the phone and call you. Doubly so in this job market. Now, having referral is the barrier to entry now. If we are targeting a FTSE 1000 or a Fortune 1000 company, you have to have a contact on the inside. That is just bar none, has to happen. So ways we can do that, obviously using people you know personally, professionally, but think about the 5 people who would just say the best things about you as a professional, right? Send them a nice text message. Take them out for a coffee. The more specific thing you can ask, the better. I might reach out to my friend at Google and say, hey, John, I see that you guys are hiring for a blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking about applying for a role. Do you mind if we connected so I can ask some questions? Just kind of get a feel if it's the right fit for me. Because what we're looking to do is get that person to sell us the company. You might ask, what's the growth trajectory like? Or what's the environment? What's the culture like? How have you found it? And they say, oh, it's great. It's this, it's that. We love it working here, blah, blah, blah. You could then come back and say, well, you've kind of sold me on your company, and I feel like I could deliver a lot of value. I would really appreciate it if you could help me with a referral. I mean, some people will say yes, some people will say no. Some people will say yes, they'll do it, and then they'll never come through. However, in this job market, we have to make every attempt to ask for help. Probably the biggest dividing factor between people I work with who struggle in the job market and people who find roles efficiently, the efficient ones are comfortable asking for help, whether it's referrals, introductions, email addresses, whatever. And if you want to do something nice for somebody before even asking them that, send them a connection. I mean, not a connection request. Send them a recommendation on LinkedIn, right? Something simple like that. When you do that proactively, more often than not, that person's going to reach out to you and say, hey, that was really cool. Appreciate you. What's going on in your world? And then that allows you to take the conversation wherever you need it to go. But with what I see in the job market, there are obviously incredible amount of change happening with AI, everything else. I mean, I'm having to start training some of my clients on how to navigate. That's the reality, right? So we either lean into it or we let it crash us over. And I completely lost my train of thought because all these things started flashing on my screen over here. And I need a producer or something. Well, we'll wait a while. Need more people to watch this thing to make sense for that. Well, anyway, let's close it off here. I think it's frozen up anyway, so yeah, we'll leave it at that. But thanks, everybody.